Graham Stuart MP. He's a Conservative MP, former Minister. Graham, how are you this evening?
I'm very well, thank you, Peter.
Very interesting day in Parliament, certainly in regard to the winter fuel U-turn by Keir Starmer. We're going to look in just a second to remind ourselves what he said, but was this unexpected for you, and can he regain any of the trust he's lost, do you think?
Well, I don't think it's unexpected because it was a really terrible decision. It was the first thing they did, wasn't it? They came into office, they gave no hint beforehand. In fact, they promised specifically they would protect pensioners, and then they came in and they cut the winter fuel payment for the very poorest, causing, according to their own analysis from previous years, thousands of people to die in the winter. And now they've come up with a half, baked suggested change. They haven't been able to give us any details, and it's too late. It's too late for the old people who lost out the support when they needed it most this winter. But, I think the pressure was immense for Keir Starmer. His backbenchers were starting to panic after the local government elections because it came up on the doorstep from people who just said, didn't matter whether you were old yourself, you just went, this is wrong. And they couldn't defend it. And, I think now the big question is, he said he's going to bring this in at a big fiscal event. In other words, budget. Can it really be Rachel Reeves who's the architect of this assault on pensioners? Who presents that fiscal event?
You think she's vulnerable?
I think she's got to go. I mean, this is a major success, I have to say, for Kemi Badenoch. When we're out, we're still unpopular. It's hard to get cut through. But Kemi has been absolutely focused on this, laser-like, challenging the Prime Minister week after week after week.
Well, let's just have a look at that
now. They've decided to change course.
We're just going to look at what Starmer said, then Badenoch, and then I want to go back to what you're saying about Rachel Reeves, because I think that's really interesting. You're one of the first people who's raised that with me. I know it's been around for a while, but particularly in relation to this. Let's just see what Starmer said at Prime Minister's Questions at lunchtime today on this issue.
As the economy improves, we want to make sure people feel those improvements in their days as their lives go forward. And that is why we want to ensure that as we go forward, more pensioners are eligible for winter fuel payments. As you would expect, Mr. Speaker, we will only make decisions we can afford. That is why we will look at that as part of a fiscal event.
Very interesting. So let's just see how Graham's party leader, Kemi Badenoch, responded to that. It was actually a little bit later on in Prime Minister's Questions, but of course the U-turn by Keir Starmer dominated proceedings earlier. This is what Kemi Badenoch had to say.
He promised to protect pensioners, but his winter fuel cut has driven thousands into hardship. His MPs hate this. He can't see them, but they all look sick just hearing what it is he's going to do. So let's wait until... They are laughing just as they laughed at the budget. Hands up who here wanted winter fuel cuts. Hands up. Not a single one of them. Not a single one of them. The fact of the matter is, this Prime Minister is destroying them. They need to look at what they are doing to the country. The truth is, we all know that it is this Prime Minister, this Labour government, and their policies that are shafting the country, isn't it?
Kemi Badenoch, undoubtedly one of her strongest performances at Prime Minister's Questions. Keir Starmer on the back foot. Let me get into this a little bit more, Graham, because it's really interesting when you get rid of a Chancellor. I'm not saying Rachel Reeves is necessarily going to go, but you're thinking she has to. We saw with Liz Truss, for example, she was incredibly close politically to Kwasi Kwarteng. When he went, it was clear she was going to go fairly soon afterwards. Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer appear to think the same way, although I'm not sure Keir Starmer actually thinks very much about the economy. I wonder if to lose a Chancellor is something which is really major for a Prime Minister. Do you honestly think that'll happen between now and the budget?
Well, Peter, I'll put it the other way. Imagine the fiscal event at which she turns up when the flagship first thing they did out of the door after 14 years in opposition was, and it was Rachel Reeves' decision to do so, was to cut the winter fuel payment. And she's going to be there, standing up, saying that they're making changes. How they do that as well is going to be a different question. But I don't think it can stand. And the jobs tax is another disaster that she's brought on the Labour Party in order not to put on direct taxes on people. They've ended up doing this indirect tax, which has contributed in so many ways to rising prices. If you look, EU prices are falling at the moment, and what our inflation has gone back up 3.5%.
I'm not sure.
Worth remembering that we had the fastest growing economy in the G7 when we left power. We had inflation back at 2% and 4 million more people in work. Instead, Labour, under Rachel Reeves, have brought the economy to a halt, and we see 100,000 more people on the dole. And that's before they bring in other things like the Employment Rights Bill. So I don't think she can survive. And if Keir wants to survive, now he's got restive backbenchers who are making it, by the day, they're getting braver, because they can see, especially after the local elections, that if they don't do something different, they're going to get cut down too.
The poll tax was seen as Margaret Thatcher's sort of beginning of the end of her time as Prime Minister. I don't imagine, Graham Stuart, that you have agreed with Diane Abbott on many occasions, but when she says this is Keir Starmer's poll tax moment, is she proving that even a stop clock tells the right time twice a day?
Well, absolutely. And well, Diane Abbott's been very clear on this and strong, and I haven't, she's got it spot on throughout. This is who thought that this is what a Labour government would do? Who thought that the first thing they would do would be to come in and betray people who've paid in with taxes all their lives? And now we've got a panicked U-turn showing that they recognise they've miscalculated. But you saw Keir Starmer there, the same ghastly delivery he's got, no apology. And they're only going halfway, if that. We don't have the details. It's not leadership. It's damage control. That's what we're seeing. And this isn't a government that's been in for a decade, as was, Margaret Thatcher when that happened, or, after our 14 years, it gets more difficult. This is a government with a huge majority. The public may not have voted for them in huge numbers, but were prepared to give them a chance and support them. Instead, they blew it. And who did that? It was Rachel Reeves. So I think, I may be proved wrong, Peter. You're a pretty shrewd judge of the political scene.
Flatterer.
But I think Rachel Reeves is in a very difficult position.
Interesting.
She's not only got the wrong policies, but she is a terrible communicator, isn't she? I mean, she's positively robotic.
Well, let's talk about someone who is a good communicator, and that's Boris Johnson. He has said about the Lucy Connolly controversy that Britain is turning into a police state. I want to talk about that substantively in a minute and look at what Rupert Lowe said at Prime Minister's Questions. But just before then, given that Kemi Badenoch, look, she had a good day today, there's no doubt about that. She had a good day at Prime Minister's Questions. But nonetheless, latest YouGov poll, 16% in the polls, your party is in serious trouble, Graham. Is Boris Johnson on manoeuvres, do you think?
I don't think so, no. And, we're less than a year after an election in which we got soundly thrown out. I think the collapse of Labour has created a kind of vacuum that has sucked reform up. It flatters them. Now we'll find out, Peter, whether they're just a souffle that will collapse when the heat goes off, or whether there's something there. But I mean, you can capture the mood of the nation when they're angry and cross, and that goes you a certain way. But when it comes to a general election, people want competence. They want to know that you're going to be able to look after their family's future, and I don't believe that reform have yet shown that, but
they're 4 years.
See. As you say, we have a lot of work to do, but Kemi Badenoch stayed focused. She's not rushed off in multiple directions. She picked this as an issue, and she forced a U-turn from Keir Starmer today. And I think
you think she forced it herself, really?
Well, I really do. It's been absolute focus on it. It is just keeping it alive. I mean, we're all part of it. I've been relentlessly focused on it in my own efforts at communications because it's just so wrong. It's impossible. And that's made a difference. And Kemi chose the subject, drove it hard, and now we see the government U-turning. In opposition, what more can you do, Peter? OK,
let's talk substantively, as I say, about the Lucy Connolly issue. I just want to play the clip now of Rupert Lowe at Prime Minister's Question Time and the question that he asked the Prime Minister on this, and then get Graham's reaction. This is Rupert Lowe, the independent MP, formerly of Reform UK, asking this question at lunchtime at Prime Minister's Questions.
Does the Prime Minister agree that imprisoning Lucy Connolly, a young mother with a 12-year-old daughter, for one foolish social media post, soon deleted, is clearly not an efficient or fair use of prison?
Mr. Speaker, sentencing is a matter for our courts, and I celebrate the fact that we have independent courts in this country. I am strongly in favour of free speech. We've had free speech in this country for a very long time, and we protect it fiercely. But I'm equally against incitement to violence against other people. And I will always support the action taken by our police and courts to keep our streets and people safe.
What do you make of how Keir Starmer answered that question, Graham?
Well, it's in character, isn't it? He's a North London lawyer, so he answers like a lawyer rather than like somebody who actually represents people. I think people look at that particular case and they wonder about two-tier policing, and that's one thing that British people hate, the idea that we would have two-tier justice. It's why, you know, we had Northern Ireland questions today as well, and David Davis was focusing on the two-tier treatment of people in Northern Ireland, as asking, why is it that the people who set out to protect property and save lives are being prosecuted or at risk of prosecution, and those who set out to destroy property and take lives are walking around free? This kind of two-tier system goes down very badly with people, and it's important that you know, we do respect the independence of the courts, but you've got to be tone deaf not to see that there's people who actually do genuine damage are getting treated one way, slap on the wrists, and someone who may have been having their own personal problems, makes a temporary tweet, finds themselves locked up for a long time.
Okay.
It's it's something I think one could at least sympathise with, and it makes people angry if they feel they've got a system which is rigged one way or the other. No one wants bias in anyone's particular favour. They want us all treated the same. It's supposed to be one of the founding principles of this country.
Just before you go, just briefly, Graham, you've got two flags behind you there. I'll just describe them for our listeners on the radio, but many people watching on the screen as well. You've got the Union flag over your right shoulder. Over your left shoulder, is that the Yorkshire flag, or what is that? It
is indeed. It's the Yorkshire flag.
The White Rose of Yorkshire. There we are.
White Rose of Yorkshire.
Graham's constituency, of course, Beverley and Holderness there. So very good, great stuff. Now, I just wanted to clarify that. I would imagine there are a few people sitting at home wondering what that flag was anyway. Very familiar with the one over your other shoulder, of course. Graham, thank you very much indeed. That's Graham Stuart there, who is the Conservative MP for Beverley and Holderness.